So I'm back again with another video, and today I want to talk about the Wii U and Switch 2. Now, I did not really want to make a Switch 2 video, then proceeds to make a Switch 2 video. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Originally, with all the Switch 2 announcements, and I kept seeing it all over my YouTube feed, I was like, I don't really want to make a Switch 2 video because I know I'm not going to get one right away. I never do get these things like at launch on day one. That's just not who I am. I've never been like that. The closest to getting a system at launch actually for me was the Switch. I didn't get it in March of 2017, but I did get it the year 2017. I actually got it for my birthday or Christmas. My wife actually got it for me. I wasn't planning to get one for a while, but I did get one. And obviously I've been playing it for quite a few years. But the Wii U. The Wii U has always held a very special place in my heart. I have made like over 50 Wii U videos on this channel. And I saw a buddy of mine, Ifacade, I think he had made a Wii U isn't going to be the Switch 2, or the Switch 2 isn't going to be the Wii U, something like that. I think he made a video about that. I know he posted something about it on Bluesky. I didn't want to watch the video itself because I didn't want to be influenced by it, because I wanted to make my own video and give my thoughts on, is the Switch 2 going to be the next Wii U? And I think it just depends on what you mean by Wii U. You know, us Wii U people. What do you mean, Wii U people? Anyways, the Wii U, yeah, it's one of those consoles. It's a fact. It's sold poorly, but it has its audience. It's still sold 13 million units. When people say no one bought the Wii U, that's like saying nobody lives in New York City. You know what I mean? More people bought the Wii U than live in New York City, but nobody ever says, no one lives in New York City. It's a ridiculous comment and sentiment. What they really mean to say is it performed under expectations, especially compared to its predecessor, the Nintendo Wii, which sold over 100 million units. And obviously the Nintendo Switch, I think now is the best-selling console of all time, if I'm not mistaken, though it's a handheld and a home console, so that makes it kind of weird and complicated. Obviously the PS2 is still the best-selling home console only system, but obviously we consider the Switch to be the best selling home console in general, because obviously we're not talking about the DS and whatever. The DS sold really well, and that's the other thing too. The 3DS did not perform as well as the DS. Of course, all DS games are backwards compatible with the 3DS. And I don't even want to get into the complications of the new 3DS, which was its own thing technically if you think about it, because it did have its own games that could only be played on the new 3DS. But do I think the Switch 2 will be the next Wii U? Again, it depends on what you mean. Do I think it will have a very clear and specific audience? Yes, I do. And one thing they do have in common is they are both what you would call Wind Waker machines. That's right. You could play Wind Waker on, of course, the Wii U, and now you'll be able to play Wind Waker on the Nintendo Switch 2. That's pretty interesting, because Wind Waker, of course, was not available on the Wii. I mean, you could through GameCube backwards compatibility, but it was never actually ported to the Wii, unlike Twilight Princess. And you have, of course, now there's going to be GameCube NSO on Nintendo Switch 2, which is going to be exclusive to it. And this is something I alluded to. I truly believed in my heartest of hearts that the Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD would never be on Nintendo Switch. I made a whole video about this, and I even got people were all riled up, and there were some people upset that I made that video. And we're like, how dare you say that? Da, 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 da. It could happen. Stop trying to destroy our dreams. I'm like, I'm not trying to destroy your dreams. I'm telling you what I think is reality based on pattern recognition. I am not a smart person, but I can recognize patterns of things I see. And I'm like, based on this, based on how often they put out a Zelda game, it's just very unlikely considering there's going to be a Nintendo Switch 2. And that's ultimately what happened. And we're not getting Wind Waker HD as of today, as of right now. That could change in the future on Nintendo Switch 2. And we may never get it, honestly, because they would have to probably remake that from the ground up or use a Wii U emulator to get that to work. I mean, you could obviously do it on Steam Deck through dubious means. And then there's the whole thing about Switch 2 with physical games. There are so many instances where these Switch 2 games, what's going to be a common thing, I guess, is that you'll have to download the rest of the game onto the hard drive. Even though this was a thing, though, with Switch 1 as well. For example, the game LA Noire, you had to download a large majority of the game onto your Nintendo Switch because the card that it used it didn't hold enough memory to actually hold the entire game. So this was nothing new, really. But it sounds like that's going to become a more common practice with Switch 2. I do not think the Switch 2 will be as successful as the original Switch. Do I think it'll be as big of a sales flop as the Wii U? I do not. Do I think it'll be somewhere in between the Wii U and 3DS sales-wise? Maybe. Maybe it'll sell 60, 70, 80 million. Maybe it will get to 3DS levels. We don't know. I do think, in a lot of ways, it's hard to follow up the best-selling Nintendo console of all time. I think that's really hard to do. So it's just more than likely that the Switch 2 will not have the success that the Switch had. And the thing about the Nintendo Switch is there's so many of them. They're everywhere. It's so easy to find a cheap used Nintendo Switch or even a Switch Lite, even cheaper. So there's all these Switch cartridges running around, you know. There's all these Switch systems. And unlike the Wii, which the Wii had its audience, you know, but let's be honest, the Wii sold a lot at the beginning and was mostly selling to more a casual audience. Whereas the Switch, you know, was the game system for everybody, literally. You know, it's just, you know, you could play it as a home console. You could play it as a handheld. You could do so much with the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch sold like hotcakes. It was better marketed than the Wii U. And it had more, you know, versatility in being able, you could take it anywhere. I still love the Wii U. I will tell you the Wii U is my favorite Nintendo console, or at least one of my favorite Nintendo consoles. Maybe it's in the top 3. The Nintendo Switch isn't my favorite, but I like the Nintendo Switch, like I like most Nintendo systems. But then the Switch, you know, like the eShop has no soul. You know, there's no music and it's flooded with garbage. Whereas, yeah, the Wii U had some garbage on the eShop, but there was music. There was music, and it had soul and charm. And guess what? Every Nintendo Wii U had a built-in Wii built into it, basically. So you could, at the time, for up until like 2019, you could access the old Wii eShop. And that was really cool. And of course, you'll be able to do that with Switch 2, I assume. But we'll see. Obviously, it still hasn't come out yet. And a lot of people are getting upset, of course, about the pre-order situation because of the tariffs. And I'm kind of like, you know what? You people need to like look at your backlogs or whatever. Calm down. It's just a pre-order. They didn't even say they were delaying the launch or they weren't going to sell it at all. Like, calm down. Holy crap. I don't think that's a big deal in the grand scheme of things. Though I'm not surprised, honestly, because a lot of course, their manufacturing happens, you know, some of the parts and the manufacturing itself happen in China and Vietnam, which are having steep tariffs, I guess. I don't know a lot about that, but it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me there would be some type of delay. But at the end of the day, it's not like you don't have a zillion games to play that you have no time to play as it is. So, at the end of the day, I don't think that's a big deal. But do I think the Switch 2 will be the next Wii U? And I think it all depends on how you look at it. I hope the Switch 2 is as charming as the Wii U. I love the Wii U, and I will never apologize for enjoying the Wii U. I have created so many memories with my family playing the Wii U, playing games like Yoshi's Woolly World. You know, that game is freaking goated, okay? That's not on Nintendo Switch. And I didn't care for the... what was the Yoshi game on Switch? Crafted World. I tried the demo and I just wasn't feeling it. I don't think it had anywhere near the charm of Woolly World. Though I know there were some people who liked Crafted World, you know, and good on them, good for them, but it wasn't for me. Yeah, and I made a video actually called 10 Wii U games that are never coming to Switch. And that video has held up. It's aged like a fine wine. That video still stands. None of those games that I mentioned have come to Nintendo Switch. They might come to Switch too, which I think would be okay at this point. I think a lot of people, especially the more hardcore Wii U fans back in the day, were so irritated by the fact that their games from the Wii U were ported to Switch, not because they didn't want other people to play it, because that's what kind of made the Wii U special, was its game library. And sometimes the games that came out on the Switch that were ported from the Wii U weren't necessarily the best versions of it. For example, Pikmin 3, a lot of people talk about how they prefer the Wii U version of Pikmin 3 over the Switch version, though the Switch version may be fine. It might be just fine to them, but at the same time, they're like, man, the Wii U version, just hit differently. And I can understand that. So, but the thing about it for me is, it's the whole generational gap. I like to forget about a game. Remember back in the day when movies would come out like every 4 or 5 years and you didn't get sequels for long, long extended periods of time. And then it was at that point you'd forgotten about it. And then it comes out and it's fresh. It's exciting again. And I think that's how it was for me with a lot of these. It's like, this wasn't fresh and exciting for me. It's like, oh yeah, it was new to everybody else. It was new to everybody else. I get it. But it wasn't new to me. So of course it didn't excite me. And that was my opinion. And some people are like, how dare you have that opinion? And it's like, you're allowed to have your opinion. I can have my opinion. What's the big deal? But I think, I do think the Switch 2 could be the next Wii U. But I mean that in a good way. I really do. Maybe we'll get Virtual Console back, Maybe you'll be able to digitally own some of these old school Nintendo games again. And I know people are like, digital isn't ownership. It's like, you bought the thing and you can play it. And if you can play it offline, then nobody can really take it from you now, can they? But I think that's very unlikely that that'll happen, though, of course, because it seems like Nintendo, from what I can tell, is starting to do the same things that Sony has been doing for some time, because they recognize that nobody really cares. And the only way you'll know if people really care one way or the other are the sales. Because at the end of the day, these companies only understand one thing: money. That's all they understand. That to them is the most important feedback, is how much money they're bringing in. And Mario and Zelda and all the first party games, how will they do? How will the system perform? That will be the greatest form of feedback to them, because that's what they understand. They understand that people keep buying the stuff regardless, so it doesn't really matter. I have been enjoying Nintendo products ever since the original NES. I still love and play my NES. Heck, I was playing ice hockey recently on NES, a game that I'm actually going to talk about in my next podcast with my podcast co-host, Marceau. So we're looking forward to talking about that. So here's a low-key announcement, I guess, of that next podcast episode. Now we have to play the game, Marceau. I still enjoy Nintendo products and I enjoy Nintendo stuff. And I think it's okay to give a company your money if they're providing you with a great service or providing you with great entertainment, but never ever give them your loyalty. I say that as I'm wearing a PlayStation hat. It's okay to give a company your money, but never give them your loyalty. If they're not putting out the product you want, you don't buy it. It's as simple as that. There were people who felt that way about the Wii U. I didn't. I wasn't one of those people, but I understand why people felt that way. They thought it was just another, Wii. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who think the Switch 2 is just another Switch, but more powerful. And so maybe that won't incentivize them enough to go out and get it. And I totally get that. And it's not in 4K, it's in 1080p. So it's not in 4K in 2025, but I didn't expect it to be. But that was one of the biggest critiques of the Wii U, is the Wii U was not powerful enough, even though the Wii wasn't powerful enough. So I don't know. It's hard to tell what the future will hold for Nintendo, but I'm looking forward to seeing what does transpire. And I hope if the Switch 2 is like the Wii U, I hope it's in all the great ways the Wii U was. Because the Wii U is a system that, got a lot of hate, but I really love it and enjoy it. And my family has enjoyed it for the last, I don't know how many years. Like, we got it in 2015 with Mario Maker. So it's been like 10 years since I got a Wii U. And we still enjoy it from time to time. But anyways, yeah, I do think the Switch 2 might literally be the Wii U, but in some positive ways. And at the end of the day, it's a Wind Waker machine, and it is a successor to a very, very popular, good selling system. Well, in this case, the best selling video game console. So, anyways, what are your guys' thoughts? Do you think the Switch 2 will be the next Wii U? Comment below. Love to hear what you have to say. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and stay awesome in this universe. Later.